Minister, you're welcome to the House. It's regrettable that the de facto Minister for Defence is not here today to take statements. I am, of course, talking about the Taoiseach. For a Minister, as a Minister of State, you do not have full power. And the Minister who has full power, the Taoiseach, does not know enough about the Naval Service even to know how many ships we have, or the number that are available operationally. I want to start, Minister, by expressing my deep concern that no one in government or in the Department of Defence really understands the importance of defence security services well-resourced and well-managed for cyber-security monitoring systems. I believe that this government's cavalier attitude to the most important aspect of securing foreign direct investment will eventually cost our economy dearly. Are you aware of the concerns of many of the multinationals in Ireland with respect to the apparent lack of clear retention and training strategy for cyber-security experts in defence? What's the plan? How will the brain drain be halted from defence? 96 cents a day won't do much to stop it. We know that the Internal Defence Force Computer Incident Response Team, CIRT, was shut down a few months ago, and that the last person in the office purchased his discharge. I understand that we're now allocating up to 40,000 per month for a private contractor to provide a service if and when required. To say that this is very unsatisfactory would be a complete understatement. What does it say about our defence strategy that we now have a civilian company with eyes on military-grade communications and intelligence? The Defence Forces, I understand, are meant to provide 2 cyber personnel for the interdepartmental multi-agency National Cyber Security Centre led by the Department of Communications. Needless to say, these 2 seats are empty at the moment. We have no spare personnel and no strategy to find personnel in that area. With respect to the Navy, Minister, you will today agree that we actually own 9 ships. I hope you do. I hope you'll further agree that there are only 3 of those ships that are fully operational. Only 3, not the 6 you said in your speech. For 2 of the ships that we're talking about are not operational. They're not operational on a full-time basis because we do not have ERA personnel to look after them. I'm talking here about P61 and P62. Will you accept that P31 Oireachtas and P41 Oireachtas, while you say they're in for maintenance, it was not scheduled maintenance, and will you agree that when that maintenance is over, neither ship will be returned to the fleet in an operational capacity for the foreseeable future because of the shortage of personnel? I want to turn now to Navy divers. There has been a number of tragedies off the coast of Ireland involving the need for deep-sea divers. I understand that the Navy have divers trained up to dive up to 60 metres with mixed gases. I understand they're the only professionals in the country that provide that service. This was extremely important during the rescue, during the matter with respect to Rescue 116 when she was downed. I believe that the Navy diver establishment is 27 personnel. Can you today confirm that we now only have 6 qualified divers, Navy divers available? With respect to the Air Corps, we have a pilot shortage of a reported 30%, but if we take the senior officers out of flying, that deficiency rises to 50%. Medical emergency flights, which used to be carried out by the Air Corps, are now contracted out at a cost of €7 million over 2 years. What would that €7 million have done to the Air Corps? What would it have done to retention of pilots? Is this not gross mismanagement of the system? We now have a plane on standby every night, and over the last 9 months it has only been used 3 times. With respect to aircraft maintenance, I understand that AW139 helicopters and PC9s aircraft are being sent to Belgium, Germany, Switzerland and the UK for maintenance. What's that costing, Minister? How much is that costing? And could that money have been used to retain military personnel, particularly in the technical areas? With respect to the Army, we've had situations in the not-too-distant past where young officers straight out of the Curragh found themselves in command of 3 platoons. We've had a situation where a battalion was managed by 3 captains and 1 lieutenant. We have shortages in the area of EOD specialists. Probably the most unfriendly place of all from a family perspective to work is in explosive ordnance disposal. With respect to medical care, you spoke about medical care there a few moments ago. Is it not the case that we had a senior officer report on radio recently that he funded scans for a private soldier out of his own pocket because the Defence Forces do not have access to such scans? We're cutting allowances for personnel injured in the Army Ranger Wing who are in a particularly physical job. If they become injured, they lose their allowances after 28 days, I believe it is. We continue to fight cases in the courts in Lariam. And what do we do at the very end of the day in most of these things? We settle them. The Working Time Act, which you referred to in your speech, we're dragging PD Fora to the gates of the courts, and then we settle the cases. What's that costing? How much are we paying on legal advice when we know that this has to be resolved one way or the other? What is the establishment, when you talk about the 10.1 million that it was provided by the Public Service Pay Commission, and indeed I compliment the Chairman for his work given the constraints he was working under, that 10.1 million, does that apply to the 9,500 we're supposed to have, or does it apply to the 8,300 odd that we currently have? You mentioned overseas service, Minister. Surely the United Nations pay for overseas service and it's not coming out of the Exchequer. So we can't include that in any public service pay agreement. With respect to the allowances we're talking about for duties and patrols, these allowances don't even meet the minimum wage. And what we're talking about soldiers, sailors and airmen who are on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So in actual fact, when we boil it all down, the actual increase in pay is 96 cents a day for a private soldier with less than 3 years service and 130 for a captain. Hardly something we should be shouting from the hilltops over. Now, some time ago, I objected to the appointment of an Assistant Secretary-General for People in the department, and you fought your case here, and it was accepted by and large for the department. I'm just wondering, I'm hearing that nobody has ever met the Assistant General Secretary for People. I understand that he has not visited any installation or any barracks. And I'm wondering now that there is a story to be told with respect to pay and conditions. Are we going to have the person in charge of personnel go out and meet soldiers on the ground, sailors on the ground and Air Corps people on the ground and explain to them how the Public Service Pay Commission arrived at its figures and explain to them how it's going to make a difference to their lives? Minister, it was appalling over the last few days to hear the Taoiseach of the country refer to our 7 ships when we have 9. It is appalling to hear that the Air Corps is, the Navy is at 88%. 88% of what? When we take out the people that are non-seagoing, when we take out the people that are on long-term sick leave, when we take all those people out, we are probably somewhere between 65 and 70% in truth. When it comes to the Orla and the Etna being stepped down for maintenance, ordinarily in the Navy this time would be used for planned leave, for training courses, etc., etc. The 2 ships that have been stepped down, Orla and Etna, the crews will be allocated to other ships in order to see other ships at the establishment level.
Thanks, Senator.
So it is no great achievement where we have arrived at. We're in a mess, a total mess, and I don't know how we're going to get out of it, but the spiral is downward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator.